Hey y'all, this is Liam.
And it's Jen.
And we're so glad you've joined us for an episode of the limited podcast series, Unlimited Time Magic with Jen and Liam.
A place where we have honest, raw, unhinged, usually sober conversations about Disney, travel, and just life.
Now, I know you're a little spooked, you're a little scared, but don't be afraid to follow us on Instagram at Unlimited Time Magic.
And you know what would really help? Go ahead and give us a rating on the Apple Podcast app if you like what you hear. If you don't like it, don't worry. You've got a busy life. No reason to take the time. But if you love it, go ahead and go on there. Give us a rating. It helps us a lot.
Now sit down, buckle your seatbelts, put your arms up and relax. Oh, and y'all, if you've been ever afraid that the magic is like dead inside, remember that the magic's you. Enjoy the episode, y'all. What the what? Guys, welcome to the first episode of Unlimited Time Magic. My name is Liam.
I'm Jen LaForge. Woohoo!
And welcome to your local Disney QVC.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to sell you some Dooney and Burke bags. We're going to sell you some flameless candles. We're going to sell you some freezer croissants that you can warm up at home.
At home, at your local air fryer.
Makes a great gift.
It makes a gift card. Just think about a gift card. I want to start this off. That just made me think of I went to Disney Springs a few weeks ago, and I literally went to the the marketplace, and in the middle of the co-op is the essential oil stand where you can get the oil that they use in the Disney resorts. And I was like, I want one. So because I want to smell like the contemporary 24/7. And so I got one, and she was like, oh, you got to get a second. And I was like, excuse me? Her name was Beverly. She said, she was like, yep, can you get a second? Because if you get two, it's $25 in total versus one is like $16. And I said, well, you sold me, Beverly. And I got it.
Okay, but you spent $9 more than you had intended to spend.
But now I have twice as much contemporary smell. So who's the real winner here? Not
your bank account.
That's incredibly true. Jen, how are you doing? Where are you at today?
So you know how we have this dog.
Oh. And
he's sitting right here. I can see him. So this story is going to be okay because I can see him. Otherwise, it would feel incredibly insensitive. My son is calling him the Weekend at Bernie's dog.
Oh, no.
So we think he's got an autoimmune disease. He's on prednisone. He's starting to do better. But I swear to God, I took him to the vet because I thought he was doing much, much better, like delusionally in my brain. And I take him to the vet and I'm holding him. And he's like, and the vet, I was like, he's doing so much better. And the vet was like, no, he's not doing better. And I was like,
look, he's smiling and he's just wearing the goggles you bought him.
So, I feel that we can heal through fashion. So I'm like, we'll buy more accessories and then he'll be fine.
We'll buy him a mustache.
So I have this thing that I do. I think in mental health terms, it's actually called magical thinking, but it's sort of like my own form of manifesting where I just decide that something's true, even though it is completely.
So you're gaslighting yourself into feeling better?
I am gaslighting myself into feeling better. I have a very active imagination, so I can convince myself of a lot of things very effectively.
Good and bad.
Yeah. So he is legitimately doing better now, but the vet, the look on her face was like, and I'm like, the dog is like limp in my arms. And I'm like, he's doing so much better. And she was like, so yeah, we're pulling for Walter. And those of you that have been through like autoimmune disease with the pet, it's very complicated. It's very expensive. Like I could have bought myself and my co-host Liam a Tesla with the money we were spending on this dog. Yeah. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Y'all, the reaction from so we announced kind of like a week ago that we're doing this series, an official name, and y'all's reaction was just so nice. Like Jen's fan base from her YouTube account, as a business person, as a creative, I've always been so impressed
That was
with
a hair
Jen.
flip. I can't, my hair is up, so I can't, but that was a hair flip.
Please watch us live on YouTube, because Jen, that was almost Cirque du Soleil drawn to life realness. But y'all's reaction was just so lovely and warm, and everybody has just been so kind. If you don't know who either of us are, I don't know really how you got here, but God bless you. To quote the good prophet, life is a highway.
Reverend Rascal Flats.
Reverend, but back, welcome to this series, y'all. Jeez. This little mini series that we've got going on is essentially a place where we can come together and talk about mental health, Disney, all in one place, and really like prove to ourselves, but also as a community of Disney lovers, that there is so much magic around us, not only in the theme parks, but if the last 2 years taught us anything, it's really like the magic really is in our relationships and how we talk to one another and how we mainly talk to ourselves.
Wait, I can't. I have to go. The magic
is
calling.
Please.
Hello?
Literally watch us on YouTube, because Jen just did a physical bit that anyone listening to this will not understand.
I think they have an active enough imagination.
I think they felt it.
I think they caught it.
Just like Jen LaForge, they have an active imagination. But when I presented this idea to Jen, it really was kind of like, oh no, duh. Like the fact that people don't really talk about this so openly. We're just, I want to speak for the both of us and say that we're both really excited for this limited series. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. So can I just interject?
Please.
Because I have words. The thing is, well, first of all, if you're here and you don't know who either one of us are, and you have found us by happy accident, I'm so happy to see you and hear you, which I am doing neither of, but in theory, group hearing and seeing. And Liam is on, I was thinking about this on my walk today. I have many, many acquaintances and very, very few friends. And Liam is literally like, if we can get just real fast here, right? Set the tone. I have safe people in my life, right? People that have been through some SHIT. Are we swearing on the podcast? Probably not.
Can lightly, but
probably every once in a while. I'm not going to throw down.
It's a PG.
I'm not going to throw down any F-bombs or anything like that. Parents, don't worry. But I have a very short list of safe people, and Liam is on my list of less than a dozen safe people in my life. So when he reached out and wanted to do this is scary for me. I was nervous this morning. You've done podcasts. So right. Liam's done multiple podcasts. This is my first. I've only done it for my patrons. I've never done like an actual podcast. And I felt a bit, you're a clownfish, tell us a joke about the whole thing, because like, what if I'm not funny or entertaining? Like, what if I get on here and I'm just like, not all that. And then I was like, but it's my friend. And so, if nothing else comes of this, we will hang out and talk about subjects that are near and dear to us. And so it's all good. Right.
No. And I think it's always, and like my therapist and I talk about, you're going to hear a lot about my therapist, everybody.
And mine.
And mine. We're going to talk about it all. But she said like, you've been away from creative projects for a super long time. Like, get a person that you love and create something. And I've admired Jen from the beginning, like before we were friends. So it's like, it makes complete sense that I was like, well, I had this like idea, like, let me go with Jen and let's just like kind of like put crap on a chalkboard and see what sticks kind of thing. And we found this really magical idea of like, there is a certain, in any community, any strong community, there is natural toxicity to it because we're natural human beings. And I feel like talking about that stuff head on might not make it better, but I mean, just talking about it, I think makes it better, like makes this natural negativity with this big multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company feel a little bit more homegrown and a little bit more in the moment of like, we don't need a yearly DVC trip to make us feel and appreciate the magic. And literally the magic is our relationship. It is our relationships in our community. So I feel like this idea was so natural. But on Instagram at Unlimited Time Magic, I had a little Q&A question box, which we'll talk to much later. But so many of you just wanted to know how we met. So I feel like we should just head on there. I will tell my side of the story, Jen, and then you will tell your side of the story.
Welcome to Joker origin time.
Literally, I was spooky, scary time. This was pretty much like the first 2 or 3 months in the pandemic, I think. I was living in New York and I had a creative project. I had another podcast and I love interviewing people. I just really do love interviewing people. And I found Jen's videos on YouTube and I said, who is this absolute jackass who is so genuine, so real with her audience? You can tell that she's been through some stuff, but it makes her all the more grounded. And it almost feels like, Jen, you don't really like vlog in the park all that much. You mainly sit down where she is sitting right now in her lovely home and she talks to you. And it felt, especially in a time and place no one felt like you were talking to each other. You know what I mean? Like you were with your roommates or your family, like you weren't talking to people.
Right.
So suddenly this woman on my YouTube, on my computer felt like a friend. And I think I literally commented on a video, I would love to interview you for my podcast. And Jen responded with, sure, here's my email. And like, that is literally it, I think.
Yeah, no. And I am very much of a, and it wasn't always this way. I grew up very fearful of a lot of things. And now that I'm in the second half of my life, I am going to be 52 years old in July, which I never lie about my age because what a dumb thing to lie about. I mean, if you lie about your age, that's fine. But I feel like saying yes to things without really knowing how they're going to turn out can be such a delightful way to discover things. It can also be a great way to have to file restraining orders. But in your case,
I love that.
In your case, so then I went on the podcast, and do you remember that well, that isn't entirely true because I started listening to Themed Millennials like the first time that you ever commented, because you commented. I don't know how I even found the podcast, but I found the podcast before you asked me to be on it. Loved Themed Millennials, loved your personality. So you interviewed me. And then I think I ended up doing a consulting call with you for like an hour after we were done.
Right. No, we talked for like 2 hours in total.
And I'm maybe a little arrogant because I was like, hey, here's what I loved about the podcast. Here's where I think you can improve. Me, who's never had a podcast in my life, I'm like, let me tell you where I think you could improve this setup. And so, yeah. And then we just started talking all the time. And I feel that, this is going to sound so corny. Like I have to put on, you can't see me. I'm putting on sunglasses because this is so corny. That's what I'll do.
You're so famous. Us when we go to a park together, put on your sunglasses. Nobody needs to say hi to Jen before.
Yes, exactly. No, the truth, the whole like love is love thing applies to all the different kinds of love, all the different kinds of friendship, romantic relationships, family relationships, and some people you just connect with. And I think a lot of people have been surprised because there's a bit of an age difference between the two of us.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it does you and I were talking about this the other day. There's this book I'm reading about ageism, and it's saying that years ago, people would be friends with people that were all different ages, and it was considered very normal, and it made you much more well-rounded, and it allowed you to not have an us and them mentality because you had friends from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, different colors, different ages, different gender, different sexual orientation, different. So you didn't have this fear of the other. And I think we've so gotten like isolated into ages and demographics.
Right.
And it was done to us. Like we bought something that was not good for us, basically, not like the essential oils that you buy two of at
Thanks, Beverly.
Springs, Beverly. So all that to say, our relationship has been very healthy for both of us. And I want to use this as, if you have a friend in your life that is in a very different stage of life than you are, that can be super healthy for both of you because, Liam and I feel like make each other better. Don't you think that? Don't you feel that? It'd be really awkward if you said no right now.
I love you. I love you, Rebecca. And you're like, that's not my name. No, 100%. And I agree with everything that you said because it really was like I'm one of those people in life, I think, where I just click with the people I click with, like, and it's pretty immediate. And if you have a friend, it helps that both of us are theater people. So both of us are naturally kind of theatrical. So
People,
people
people
who
who
need.
need
One time I was in
people.
Magic Kingdom and I started, people who move, people. And nobody found it funny. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever.
How hard I just laughed is probably why we are friends.
For anybody who doesn't know, I am a full-time cast member at
Whoop,
Disney
whoop.
World. Woo! And I am over at Asia in Animal Kingdom. Or I start on Monday. Monday, I think, is when I go to full-time. But I helped reopen Beauty and the Beast live on stage over at Hollywood Studios.
Tale as old as time.
And I don't need to watch that show one more time. I don't need to watch it. But it has been super fun and super exciting and fresh.
We need a Christina Aguilera hand drinking game on this podcast because we have both done it like at least 3 times. And if you're listening and you're not watching, the drinking game will be more difficult. So go ahead and then like listen and then go watch it on YouTube and then you can play the drinking game.
And my favorite is we have this game at Beauty and the Beast where I will inappropriately sing something while the show is happening because I'm a professional. So she goes like little town, and it's like quiet village. And I go, little town. Like, what if she just came out? And I always do that. And it's like, I love my job at Beauty and the Beast. It's really, really fun. But I'm going to, we're pretty sure I'm helping reopen Everest, which opened just last week, which is not so, because they literally were like, by the way, we're opening tomorrow, like literally at 3 p.m. It was wild. It's really, really crazy. We really wanted to talk this episode all about the idea of like magic in general, right? And the idea that like we are in I read this quote the other day that was like, we are in such a mentality to get, like we need to get things in order to feel sustained, in order to feel safe, in order to feel fulfilled. And Disney's including that, I think, of like, we need to get that we need to get that lightning lane, and because like that's what's going to make us happy. When Jen and I separately created a short list of things that like make us feel full, not only in the theme parks, but also in our everyday lives. You know, we just talked about our relationship, that Jen is so right that like, I feel so full with Jen. I never feel edited. I never feel parts of me. I've shared things with Jen that have literally been like, I know on paper are like kind of crazy, but like Jen has never once been like you need to be put away. Well,
you know, I think it's very difficult. And hopefully anyone listening to this podcast, if you don't already know this, you're going to figure it out really, really quick. You can't clutch your pearls when someone shares their truth, because that to me, and we talked about this sitting at the Grand Floridian with our good friend Sarah, who I know we adore Sarah, that people that have been through some stuff have a language of our own. And we identify each other in the wild pretty easily. Also, too, we can pretty easily identify people that either haven't been through stuff, which is very rare, or more importantly, people who have been through stuff and aren't quite ready to work through it yet. And so that's when the clutching of the pearls happens. It's that shock that really is about, okay, you're a little too much for me. And I have literally had people say that to me, like, you are too much for me. And I love Glennon Doyle's book. What's the name of it? I can't think of it off the top of my head. The one she just came out with last year. We'll put it in the show notes once I remember the name of it. But she talks about that a lot, about how when you finally realize that you are too much for some people, and that's okay because those aren't your people. And you find your people when you realize, I'm not scaring them. I can share my truth, and we're still in a good place. So yeah.
Right.
I don't know what that had to do with what you were talking about, but
no, but it's just like, we want this podcast, we want this show to be a consistent, safe space for not only our audience, but ourselves, to bring our full, authentic selves, not our Disney edited version on Instagram, which in itself is an art form and something to be celebrated, but there's also a real moment and should be a space to share your authentic selves in a real way in this podcast. And y'all have already proven on Instagram that like y'all are ready for like some wild, like when I was like reading through the questions, we'll do a question pretty much every week from our audience members. And some of those questions were mighty real. They weren't just like, What I mean, and there was some adorable, like, what's your favorite Disney character? But there were also some real questions about like trauma. And I'm like, there's something so beautiful, childlike, and innocent about going to Disney. We all do it no matter what age we're at, and we seem to have an amazing time. Why is that? Because it touches in, I'm a child of divorce. I'm a child of a messy divorce. I'm a child of a few deaths in the family. And yet I can have a consistent memory and a specific feeling, which touches on our subject for the week, of going down Sunset Boulevard with my dad when we were going through a horrific divorce that like split up our entire family, but suddenly everything was okay on a Sunday night seeing Fantasmic. Everything. So like there is something really powerful and tangible of like making memories. It didn't have to be at Fantasmic. Fantasmic is amazing, but there was something so beautiful about the fact that Fantasmic will open this year in 2022 at some point, and I will go probably to the first night because I have such a specific emotional attachment to just the memory of that theater and the memory of that show, and the fact that it hasn't changed in literally 25 years. But that's enough.
Well, don't you think though that's why sometimes we respond the way we do? And by we, I mean like the Disney community as a whole, when there are changes. And now
Right.
I'm old enough to have been there like during the first change, like when they got rid of Spectro Magic and people lost their minds, So
Right.
it's the change is not just I don't like new things. I think for most people, it's I associate these really good family memories. I mean, same in my family of origin, very chaotic, very volatile. But at Disneyland, what song just came to my head? But everything was beautiful at the ballet. Like if you go listen to that song from a chorus line, okay, like do yourselves a favor if you've never listened to that song. It's an amazing song. Insert like Disney memories to that, and you get it. That is, I think, I just got chills. Don't you think like that is our place where for us, our families were on their best behavior. Things were reliable. We didn't have to worry about chaos. We knew that problems could be solved. And so that is where we go for that. And then conversely, we have found people to surround ourselves with that share that. But guess what? We also kind of share a lot of family of origin stuff and a lot of trauma recovery stuff and all this there's this Venn diagram of truth that I think applies even if you're outside of the Disney community, because all of us who grew up that way usually have that place that I hope that we do, right? That we can go back to and remember our families in a good and a happy and whole way. So
I visited Disneyland for the first time 5 years ago in California, and I straight up cried because I was wondering why I had such a raw reaction to Disneyland. And I think it was because I was raised in Orlando. I came to America when I was 5, and we were literally raised in the backyard of Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, that kind of
Tell
stuff.
them where you came to America from.
I was born in Penarth, Wales.
He's Welsh, everyone.
Welsh.
He's Welsh.
I don't sound it, but like every man in my life, I'm not lying. I swear. Literally every man I've ever dated. Okay, I think you're lying. And then they meet sometimes my parents, and then they're like, "Oh, you're not kidding." But we came here because my dad literally had a dream for his kids that he did not want to raise them in.
Did he have a suitcase and a dream, or just the dream?
Just the dream part. We couldn't afford the suitcase. But when we came to America, so like, I was raised at MGM Studios. That was my park when I was young. And then so when I went to Disneyland, kind of more in my adulthood time, I was like having such a raw reaction. And to this day, I walk into Disneyland. I've been there twice now, and I get emotional every single time. Nothing beats to me 8 a.m. at Magic Kingdom at Disneyland, having a coffee in my hand and just walking around. I don't need to ride anything. I am in no rush at Disneyland. And it's just such a raw feeling for me. And I remember, because obviously I went to Disneyland a few months ago, not that long after the pandemic shutdown, that taught us so much about what we find valuable in this world, including like me reorienting my life. And like I was going full-time actor mode in New York that got stopped. But suddenly I was like, great. So who's Liam besides Disney and besides theater? And I couldn't answer that question. I didn't know. And so I was like, that is a problem. Like, that is an issue. That is a challenge. So I decided to pop a spot down here in Florida, hence why I'm here. But when I go to Disneyland, or when I go to Disney in general, I remember being on Main Street, and this was, again, we're still in social distancing times, and Mickey's on the train station, and I literally am like, I haven't seen Mickey in 2.5 years. Like, I have not seen Mickey in 2.5 years. And I just literally go like, hey, like, I love you, pal. And he literally stops and he looks at me and he goes, I love you. Like, he literally goes, I love you. I was like, I've missed you. And he literally goes, I know. And I'm like crying. It was my first night. Mind you, I just traveled from Florida to California. So I literally had one of those Disneyland moments. And I'm
going to stop you because what you said about your dad, I think, and you know, we're going to be very guarded about a lot about our personal lives here, but knowing a little bit about that story, the admiration when you talk about your dad and his journey and coming here because he wanted something better for his family, that like brings me to tears. Like, that whole idea of saying, I can't give them what I want to give them here. So I'm going to literally leave my country of origin. I'm going to leave my family behind, and I'm going to try to find something better. That spirit of things is so encapsulated in so many different Disney stories.
Right.
And I mean, and Walt Disney himself and his story, and, you know, filing for bankruptcy twice way back in the day with his animation studios. And, you know, we always think about Walt Disney's career starting with the parks. No, that was like the last thing he did in his career. He had already been an animator and a movie producer and all of these things that he did from nothing, you know, from delivering newspapers in the snow at 3:00 in the morning. And that whole, when you read between the lines, abusive childhood, like there's a lot of parallels. So I think whenever Disney World people go to Disneyland and they walk in with one set of expectations, and like my friend Tammy that I just was with there, and she's grew up in Florida, she's a Florida person, and the look on her face when she walked in, like, it hits in a way that you're just not expecting from a historical point of view.
Right.
And if you're not tuned into any of that, or if you don't know any of that, I don't think it necessarily would. But if you understand what it took for his entire career to happen, and I'm not one to overly mythicalize, if that's a word, Walt Disney. He was a flawed man in a lot of ways, just like every man. He had a lot of beliefs that don't align with mine, just like a lot of people during his time. There are things that we can excuse and things that we can't. So I'm not saying that.
Right.
But the story of coming from nothing and being a creative and taking nothing and turning it into something is, I think, what I resonate with the most. And so when you stand there on Main Street in Disneyland, all of that just hits differently. Hey guys, it's me, Jen. Are you loving this episode of Unlimited Time Magic? I totally agree with you. It's great, but it could use just a little something. And you can provide that little bit of help that we need to make these podcasts the best that they can be. Just go ahead and head over to our tip jar. Remember, a little goes a long way in helping us produce better episodes for you. Links can be found down in the description or in our link tree on Instagram. See you on Main Street.
My friends, before we move on to the second part of our episode, I want to give a trigger warning that we do lightly touch upon abuse and trauma in our second part of our episode. We always list resources in our link tree for mental health services for anyone who is struggling. Thanks so much. Enjoy the second part of the episode.
Is there something in the parks though, Jen, that like to this day brings you, that it's not like a big e-ticket attraction, not this, not that? You mentioned, you and I have talked about so many times, like your upbringing in Disneyland. Like, is there something that really does? I loved watching your vlogs from Disneyland because it is kind of a different Jen. There is a more childlike Jen when she goes to Disneyland versus Disney World. I feel like Disney World is a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak for you, but is a little more mom Jen. Yeah. And Disneyland is a little more like Jen when she was wee tot.
Yeah, that totally tracks because Disney World was, most of my memories there are with my children, and Disneyland was my memories when I was a child. So definitely, for sure. And I don't it's one of those things that since I started doing YouTube, I tend to rush through this experience, and I need to stop doing that to the point where I need to start when I go to either park doing what I'm going to describe and then coming back out and starting the vlog, because it's such a powerful moment for me. And when I'm filming, I don't feel like I experience it, but it's going through the tunnel. When you walk into Magic Kingdom or into Disneyland Park, those posters, don't ask me why, but when I was a little kid, the posters that lined the tunnel, you know, when you go, when hear that little plaque that says whatever it says about how you're leaving today and you're walking into, you know, the one that's
yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy.
Yes, it's right there. When I walk through that tunnel, something transforms in me, and it doesn't matter how focused I am. It doesn't even matter, especially now, as I have so many like people that work in Disney parks, whether they are other YouTubers, Instagrammers, cast members. A lot of times I'm walking into the parks to meet a coworker or to have some kind of a business thing or whatever. When I walk through that tunnel, I have the most amazing feeling every single time. And, you know, the artwork has changed over the years. And if you really look at those posters, they're very intentional. It is almost, well, not almost, it was set up to be the first act, you know, as you walk in. That is your overture. That is setting up this, that is setting the stage for what you're getting ready to experience. And there was as much intentionality put into those tunnels as was put into anything else in the parks, because especially when Disneyland was created and you really were leaving the city of Anaheim, like we used to park my dad's car where DCA is now. And then you would just walk across this little way and then you were there. And walking in those tunnels, I really cannot describe it, but I do feel transformed. And you know, to make a modern reference, are you watching Severance? Have you watched Severance at all?
No.
Oh, okay. So those of you that have watched Severance, in a bad way, the moment when they switch from their real selves to their work selves, when they get off that elevator, in a good magical way, that's how I feel when I walk through the tunnel. So everyone who's watched Severance will know what I'm talking about, and you don't. So now you feel left out, and I apologize for that.
I hope you guys are having fun.
Yeah. So what is that for you? What is your like
sunset?
Like sunset every time.
Sunset Boulevard. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like sunset, like the sun setting. I was like, interesting.
I hope everyone knows my cat is just in my lap. She's just like, you're talking about something emotional, and she just no, I would say 6-7 p.m. at Sunset Boulevard Hollywood. There's
sunset on Sunset is yours.
It's true. Nothing beats Jen and I at Hollywood Studios a few months ago now, but I remember looking up because I hadn't seen the Beacon of Light, like the 50th anniversary projection stuff on Tower. And for anybody who doesn't know, from an attractions, when I wasn't in entertainment, I was in operations and attractions, and I did 9 months at Tower of Terror, and now I helped open Theater of the Stars at Beauty and the Beast, which is one of the first shows I've ever watched. So it is kind of cool that I helped reopen it after the pandemic, because I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is really what introduced me to theater and music, was shows like this. So it's cool. That and Tarzan Rocks, holler. But anyways, Jen and I were at studios, and I remember looking at.
By the way, wait. Liam is obsessed with Tarzan Rocks. I have never heard anyone. I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with him about anything Disney that he has not managed to work in a Tarzan Rocks reference. It is a love. Like I have never seen anyone love a show as much as Liam loved Tarzan Rocks.
Number one, Daddy Phil Collins, the tenor of all tenors, giving you, we didn't ask, we didn't deserve the Tarzan music. We didn't. Lord. We really didn't. And then suddenly Phil Collins produces this masterpiece, okay? 2, Rosie O'Donnell as a lesbian in Tarzan. Incredible. I've recently found out Turk was a boy. Did you know that? I didn't.
I think I knew Turk was a boy.
Oh, look at my cat.
I think, oh, those of you just listening are missing out on Liam's cat all over the place, and so sweet. And she has white little belly and white mittens. What is your cat's name, Liam? Tell the people.
First off, it's my brother's cat. But
no, it's not. It's your cat.
Point, it's mine. Her name is Cassiopeia, and we call her Cassie. And she has a little mustache. If you follow us on Instagram at Unlimited Time Magic,
she feels awkward about it. Don't bring it up.
Yeah, literally in every single post I make for Unlimited, I pretty much mention her because she's just there. And whenever I get a microphone out, or like I've been sitting at this desk for an hour and a half, she just came up to me. She knows what she's doing. Oh my God, Jen, our focus is terrible.
No, it isn't. This is why people love us. We're fun. You were talking about Sunset at Sunset. You were talking about the last time that we were at Hollywood Studios and Beacons of Magic.
So like Jen and I's constant joke is that we drink. Like we have like a dependency on alcohol. And Jen and I do not drink, not really. But suddenly when we're together at Hollywood Studios, we're like, we could do 3 drinks. But we're now lightweights because we don't drink. So
we're both of us 2 drink people. Like we're that's who we are. More than 2 drinks, things get really weird. We're not like, it's just not in our nature.
Create characters, and suddenly we're those characters for the entire night.
But we talk ourselves into being 3 drink people because we're together. Okay, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I remember I was like, oh, I want to see Beacons of Light. And so like we're on Sunset, and like Jen's just like, I think you were vlogging at the time, and like literally Beacons of Light, and I love studios, but I am coming for her. She like Beacons of Light turns on, and the world's most magical celebration. And like it starts. And I'm like looking at it as like, is that it? The coolest part about that Beacon of Light show, though, is the little party at the top of the Tip Top Club, at the very top level of Sun. Like, there are people dancing. It's really cute. And I cannot wait. There's the live action Tower of Terror movie with Scarlett Johansson producing it.
I don't feel okay about it though, because I'm not okay with it, because Mia Peoples and Kirsten Dunst and the original one, why are we remaking a masterpiece? Why?
That is a classic movie.
Why are we if you have not seen the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror movie, starring Jan from The Office, by the way, nobody talks about it. It is a cast, it is beyond everything wonderful and what was that, like 1994 maybe?
Yeah.
Am I in the
90s.
ballpark?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Doc Martens, scrunchies. Kirsten Dunst is how old? She's like
maybe 11, 12.
No, she's older than that. 14, 13 maybe.
I don't know.
I'm saying to you all, this is a not to be missed
Film, motion picture.
Event is film, a cultural moment. It is a not to be missed cultural moment.
Gay culture with Kirsten Dunst. That is such, and I read when I was preparing for this episode, I read a lot of interesting articles about the fact, like, we've just been through a pandemic, right? And so a lot of people went through a really, really dark time, obviously, because we were by ourselves, and, you know, a lot of our careers were changed and modified. And it said that there was a recent study. It was basically that like Disney Plus basically enhanced all of our mental health. And Disney Plus, I remember low key, I'm such a pessimist because, especially working for the parks, they'll introduce ideas to us of being like, we think this recent construction is going to be that, or Disney Plus, a streaming service. Every single time I'm like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to fail. It's going to fail so hard.
See, if you want to know why Liam and I get along, is I am actually 17 and he is 64.
100%.
So
100%.
Liam is get off of my lawn. That newfangled idea is they're never going to get that thing off the ground. I don't know what they're thinking. That thing's never going to fly. And he's talking to the Wright brothers is who Liam is speaking to in that conversation.
I am wrong. 100% wrong. And I am so committed to being wrong. Because I want to move on to some of our personal magical moments that aren't only in the theme parks, but in our personal lives that may involve Disney. But for me, like literally, y'all, I bought the H2O series body wash.
Of course you did.
Y'all, it was $25, but I did it anyways.
Didn't you use your cast member discount?
That was with the cast member discount.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like $32 and I brought it down to 25. But there are some real moments where I don't know, there's like there are those smells and feelings that, like, yes, bring me back to the Disney theme parks and the Disney culture, but ultimately bring me such solace and such ground. You know, I went through a really tough time a few weeks ago, and it just reminded me of like the fact that I have a family at Disney. I have cast member friends at work, and I also have my personal family, you know, friends like Jen, where like they ground me and bring me back to some remnants, some small part of me that I'm like, oh, that's who I am. And there's this automatic sense of ease and calm that I think is magic. That is the thing, there is the same feeling that when I go on Sunset and reminded of me and my dad going to Fantasmic, it's that same feeling for me. I just wanted to like bring it up that like, are there things in your personal life that may, I don't know, bring some amounts of like ease? I know that for a long time before YouTube was your career, that was almost a sense of, you know, creative outlet for you, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, no, absolutely. Because I had a lot of really hard jobs in the 25 years that I worked full time and was raising my family. So time off was, anybody that is a working mom, I mean, your mom worked when you were growing up. Your life is lived in fits and spurts, and there's very little time for leisure.
Right.
So, I realized a few years into that I was going to have to create, and you and I've talked about this a lot, a home environment that created some of that feeling that I got when I was on vacation. For a long time, we would go on vacation, and it was, the week that I had a year. Those of you that are not in the U.S. We have, most companies in the U.S. have PTO. We don't have like separate vacation and sick time. So, and this is scandalous, what I'm getting ready to say, but as a working mom, you have to save a lot of your PTO because you don't know if your kids are going to be sick. And your sick time, my husband traveled. My husband Scott is an airline pilot. And so I had to use my sick time to take care of my kids. And so I would never feel comfortable booking more than a week's worth of vacation, even though I had like 3 weeks vacation, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
So I had gotten very off balance where I was basically living for 1 week a year at Disney. Now that's no way to live, y'all. Like if that, and it's why I've talked about this on the YouTube channel too. I have kind of a problem with the welcome home idea that Disney
Right.
Vacation Club. It's a little psychologically manipulative because I always say Disney is my lake house, like it's my second home, but this is my home. And I realized I was spending all this time and energy planning for 1 week a year and neglecting my actual physical space. And so I, our master bedroom had turned into just basically laundry and my computer set up in the corner, and it was just a disaster. And I would go in there and just want to close my eyes and be asleep because it was certainly not a place I wanted to go. And I
Right.
was like, okay, what if I turn this into a space that I feel almost like I do when I walk into a Disney hotel room? That moment when, when you do your magic band or your key card or whatever, and you open that door and it's a brand fresh, beautiful room. I think it was Oprah that said years ago, when you walk in the door after work, your house should rise up to meet you, like that.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful? Like that sense of, I wanted to care for my own personal space as much as a Disney cast member had prepared my resort hotel room for me to walk in, because
Yeah.
this is my sanctuary. This is my safe space. And
Right.
so I started putting a lot more time and intentionality into my home so that I could feel that. But
Right.
anyway,
I think there's such a powerful thing of like, you know, so many of you asked too of like ways that we battle our own kind of mental health demons, if you will, our own challenges. And I think there is such power in holding your own space and creating your own space and not feeling guilty about it. I think we have very different perspectives. Obviously, you coming from a family life and being a mother, and mine kind of being like me being singlehood, but that can have its own sense of um I don't know, loneliness to it, that I'm like, just okay, I'm 25, but does that mean that I can't have a space that's really nice and looks nice and is my own space? And so just recently, the past like month or two, again, the minute I get into those dark woes, understanding that one, it is a chemical imbalance in your brain. Yes, you can obviously do things to combat and be there for yourself and what you're talking about, giving yourself the opportunity to do better and feel better. But a large part of it was just me spending time on my room. Like literally my room looks great now because I spent the last 3-4 weeks just really fine tuning it. I don't want to talk about my living room because that's my brother's problem, not mine. But
Charlie,
literally, you're gonna hear about Charlie. But I want to end this section with, I'll be, like I said, I have been a cast member, and whenever I'm feeling lazy or dark or just tired, just because it's work, making genuine connections with people. And I think I always say this, and I used to say it in entertainment, you have to turn around to your fellow cast members and guests and simply say, I have your back.
Yep.
That's it. That's literally
Yep.
no, because how many people walk into those gates with our exact feelings that we just talked about, but also feeling like maybe they're not supported at home, whether you're a mom who has a spouse that you don't feel supported, or you feel like you're with your kids by yourself, or whatever the feeling might be. Understanding that someone within property, someone within the park has your back is a really nice feeling. And I understand what that feeling is.
And especially if they're traveling with their extended family. I mean,
Right.
sometimes you're looking at a family with an adult son and his dad who freaking abused him. And they're together in the parks, and that adult son is trying to reconcile spending time with his father and his children. Do you know what I mean?
So
The
many
dynamics
situations.
that go, like you could stand, and I am really big on seeing people.
Right.
I think everyone is redeemable. I think everyone has a story. I think hurt people. And I think even the angriest human being, it's kind of like I work with a rescue organization for dogs, and the dogs that bite are the ones that have been abused. Like
Right.
that's reality across
Mhm.
every species, everybody. So as a cast member, you're encountering a family group, for example, it'd be very easy for you to view it as just an angry, entitled person.
Right.
But because you are who you are, you're looking at them and you're going, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what kind of an emotional stretch this is. I don't know what you're working through.
Right.
Especially, and I know that you work with a lot of people that have disabilities that are getting seated in different areas, what they've had to go through during that day, because so much of our world is ableist and is not catering towards people who don't fit into the norm. And so I think that's why you're such a great cast member, because you don't see that that person is angry. You see, okay, I have no idea what's really going on, but what can I do right now in this moment to make this situation a little better? I can't solve all their problems,
Right.
but maybe I can have their back in this moment, and I can
Right.
make this moment a little bit better. And maybe those moments can build on each other.
Correct. And I feel like I've been journaling about this because somebody said it to me. They're like, what if you were a giver instead of a taker?
Mm.
And I thought, like, what an interesting perspective, because again, so much of my career in the theater is, well, what can I get? Like, what can I get? What can I Instagram post about? What can I this? What can I that? How good can I look? Versus like, well, let's look inwards and say, what can I give?
Right.
Instead of take? Like, what does that look like for me?
Well,
And I feel like so much of that mentality is at Disney. That is a platform to do that.
And the giving to get is a very, those of you that don't know, and we're not going to talk about this at all, but I was an ordained pastor for 10 years. So that's a very centered in faith concept of losing your life to gain it. And that we hold on so tight to what we want to hold on to, but we're actually created to give and then receive through the giving. Right. And it creates this beautiful thing. And I mean, we could talk about that all day, but it is a life concept that once you uncover it, it's like you unlock the key to all of the magic is right there.
That's it. Like, that truly is it. And it's like with this podcast, we're planning on making it a limited series. So it's like we could do one season and we can wait a few weeks into another, or like things will follow us on Instagram because we'll announce everything there. I am so excited for this series. I'm excited where it's going to go, because we really don't know where it's going to go. We have a few ideas of some episodes, but we have no idea what we're going to talk about. So please follow along, subscribe on your local podcast app and on YouTube at Unlimited Time Magic, because all of our episodes are going to be live on YouTube, so you can see our faces. We do a lot of faces when the other person is talking. So it's really, really exciting. But we have a follower of the week. We have a question of the week.
Wait. I want to make up a jingle. Well, I'm doing this on the spot. Okay. Question of the week. Question of the week. We do it every week and you ask us stuff. It's question of the week.
Okay. It's from Jamie on Instagram. And I thought this was a really great, weird question, but I liked it. Jamie is over. Jamie is gone. It's the last 5 years. The question is, how do you respond to family or friends who don't understand or support your regular Disney trips? I thought that was an interesting question.
You want to answer first?
You are not in the business of changing people. Period, point blank. If somebody doesn't understand your ship, you have to like empathize to some extent and understand there are things in your own personal life. You're like, okay, I don't get, like me. I know a person in my life who literally collects knives. Don't understand it, don't get it. It is an expensive hobby, but sure, pop off. If you are a safe, responsible human being, pop off. So happy for you that that is your outlet. Because I know some people look at my Instagram account or look at blank and go, oh my God, that Disney adult thing. Oh my God, like, ew. I know some people don't support, but like understand some people's weight isn't yours to bear.
And I would also say, if someone doesn't support you, period, get them out of your life.
Period.
Like, I don't care if it's, they don't support your Disney habit. They don't support your, how you spend your time, how you spend your money. People who really love you support what you love. That's just all there is to it. And I think that's so profound what you said, Liam. I love the expression, to those who understand, no explanation is required. And to those who do not, no explanation will suffice, right? I don't need to explain to you why I love something. And if I do, then you are not really for me. Now, if the thing that I love is destructive to myself or to those around me, okay, let's have a conversation. If I am, for instance, spending my mortgage money on a trip to Disney and I'm in danger of losing my home. I've heard these stories. I kid you not.
No,
Yes, a very, well-intentioned family member may step into that space. But if we're not talking about that, if it's your money, your time, your vacation dollars, I always laugh because people will do things like go to Vegas and get blackout drunk multiple times a year.
Thinking about that. I was like, there are people who literally go just to get drunk. Like,
yeah.
Wiped.
Yeah. And to gamble and to waste money. Right. And everyone is like, oh, and doesn't say a thing about it. But if you're a person like Liam and I that goes to Disney and buys 2 drinks, and and has a thoroughly wholesome, beautiful time with friends and family, and that's what they enjoy. My guess is if someone is hating on it, let's be real, they're not just hating on your Disney habits. They're not a safe person for you. And so if it's a person that you're feeling like you're constantly having to convince about the things that you love, maybe.
How much energy is that wasting? Y'all, we are so excited for the rest of these episodes. We don't know what's going to happen. Follow us on Instagram because I constantly have conversations with people about like what we're going to talk about and what we're going to do. And we're both so game and down to just do anything. And I want to take a quick thank you to Aaron, who gave some money in our tip jar. We have a tip jar that essentially allows us to take time aside to—
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron, to like edit and employ people to essentially create things for us. And because I also like to create a community of artists to help us create. So your money does not go unnoticed. So happy season 1 premiere, Jen.
I know we're never going to have another season 1 premiere, and it's over, and it went so fast.
It's so true. It's so true. But y'all, next Saturday will be another release, another episode. So please join us. And my friends, have a fantastic day, pal. See you on Main Street.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Unlimited Time Magic with Jen and Liam. Don't be afraid to follow us on Instagram at Unlimited Time Magic, where you can find links to our YouTube channel where we upload every episode where you can see our faces, and also to our tip jar. Any bit of money helps to produce better episodes for you guys. So we'll see you next week, and we'll see you on Main Street. Bye.